All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're decoding what is, hands down, one of the most bizarre but absolutely brilliant survival guides ever created for digital creators. If you've spent, any time at all trying to build an audience online, you know it can literally feel like a meat grinder. But buried inside this massive, wildly detailed sci-fi operating system, there's some of the most profound and practical advice you'll ever come across. We're going to unpack the Ternary Agency. It uses this crazy deep lore to teach you exactly how to survive the modern internet.
So to really get this, we've got to start with the core problem. The architect behind all this goes by the name the Ironic Law Doctor, and they open their manifesto with this massive, sweeping quote. And look, they aren't just taking shots at one specific app here. They're diagnosing a planetary-scale system failure. The way our digital world is built right now, with all its algorithms and relentless analytics, it actively traps creators. You get stuck in this fragile state, constantly chasing fleeting metrics with zero accountability to actual effort or reality. You're basically at the mercy of a server farm.
Because think about it, big tech forces us into this strict binary system, right? 0 or 1. You either get the views or you get nothing. You're a viral success or an absolute failure. It completely ignores the messy, complex reality of human creativity. So what's the cure? A radical shift to a ternary logic. Instead of measuring views, the Ternary Agency measures your actual state of being, -1, 0, or 1.
Let's break down this ternary system, because it gives us three very distinct states of being. First up is state -1, the fragile human. Honestly, this is where most of us live online. Volatile, filled with self-doubt, terrified of being judged, and just constantly chasing that external validation. Then you have state 0, which is equilibrium. This is absolute stability, completely unplugged from the network noise. And finally, state 1, active agency. This is the sweet spot where you are purely executing, taking your potential and converting it directly into action with zero fear.
Now, to prove this isn't just a bunch of theoretical sci-fi mumbo-jumbo, the architect offers their own digital life as patient 0. The number here? 979. That is the exact number of videos this creator uploaded to a super obscure YouTube channel called Exact Opposite. Day after day, they pushed out nearly 1,000 discrete observations, and so many of them got literally 0 views. I mean, to anyone on the outside, this just looks like complete madness, right?
But here is the massive paradigm shift. We have to reframe those incredibly low views. Most venture capitalists, or really anyone with a conventional mindset, would look at 979 dead videos and see a catastrophic return on investment. The Ternary Agency, though, they see the perfect conditions for a hostile takeover of reality itself. These are not failures. They are deliberate flight hours logged in hostile territory. It proves the creator can survive and build out in the wilderness, totally free from needing a platform to give them a gold star. So how do you actually escape that fragile -1 state? You need a specific mechanism, which they call the polynomial move. It's this decisive, deliberate act of commitment where you just intentionally drop the self-doubt. That creeping fear of what your high school friends or your coworkers are going to think. You drop it to bypass your own biological entropy. By making this move, you leapfrog straight from -1 to 1. You take all that pent-up potential and convert it directly into execution. But, okay, how do you actually practice this without getting completely overwhelmed? Well, you build what's called a deception floor. This is a tactical layer where your goal is literally 0% accuracy relative to what the algorithm wants. The creator actually uses this concept to upload the most bizarrely mundane content imaginable, like filming a construction crew on East 40th Street and just praising them for not having any sinkholes. It's wild, but it acts as this safe, invisible digital factory, a place to practice, totally fail, and log those flight hours without the paralyzing pressure of an audience watching your every move. And while you're operating on this deception floor, you take on a persona they call French vanilla. It's basically the default harmless state. You just act all normal somehow. The genius here is that by masking your high-level skill building as just standard maintenance or boring rambling, you completely divert the attention of the incumbents, the algorithms, the trolls, the critics. You look totally harmless on the surface, but underneath, you are quietly building bulletproof internal resilience. To actually reach that state 0 equilibrium, the lore leans heavily into these incredibly detailed physical hardware metaphors. It sounds crazy, but they talk about literally hooking up to a Home Depot grounding rod to neutralize digital demons. They mention using a USB coupler as a persistent mount point to survive a server crash, wearing a magnetic pulse bracelet for a biological hardware interrupt, and even using a mirrored reflection pool to beam their data directly to the sun.
Yes, it sounds completely insane, but it is this profound mental trick. It literally forces you to unplug from digital validation and find actual physical grounding in the real world.
And you know what the absolute craziest part is? They actually built the digital architecture for this. They created real-world repositories on GitHub with names like Automate NBM, Precinct 92 Magical Feelings Enforcement, and the Ironclaw Ampere Multiverse. They didn't just write a story, they grounded their sci-fi lore in actual code structures. They took this wild philosophy and mapped it out into a literal working operating system designed to systematically break the algorithm's psychological grip on you.
Which brings us to the ultimate system doctrine of the whole ternary agency. Even if the cockpit reports a server failure, the agency is functioning if the physical grounding remains intact. Think about what that really means. Even if YouTube or Instagram is screaming that your video tanked, if the views are flatlining and your digital dashboard is flashing red, it simply does not matter. If your internal grounding, your resilience, and your pure commitment to doing the work remain solid, you are succeeding.
Now, when we take all this wild lore and mash it up with the hyper-practical advice from our second source, Early Exit, the core message becomes crystal clear. Here is the absolute unvarnished truth of the internet. Nobody cares about your content. And honestly, that is inherently freeing. People are just way too wrapped up in their own lives to obsess over your failures. That coworker you're so worried about, they might see your video for 5 seconds before they just scroll right past it. The fear of being judged is completely irrelevant.
So let's look at how this shift from state -1 to state 1 actually looks in real life. The fragile human, they're totally paralyzed, they're terrified of wasting time, they're convinced they aren't camera ready, and they just sit around waiting until they can afford perfect expensive gear. But the active agency mindset, someone who's actually executed that polynomial move, they know that skills compound. They don't wait for permission or perfect conditions. They start right now, today, using whatever free tools they already have in front of them.
If we strip away all the awesome sci-fi terminology for a second, the sources actually hand us this brilliantly simple workflow. Step 1, just use your phone. The camera in your pocket shoots in 4K and has incredible stabilization. Step 2, download Audacity. It's a completely free tool to clean up your audio. Just go watch a 10-minute tutorial. Step 3, if being on camera freaks you out, stay anonymous. Step 4, hit publish, even when you know it's terrible. And step 5, commit to making 10 videos before you even let yourself judge if it's worth it.
Because here is the real secret behind what the ternary agency calls negative spend. Grinding out hundreds of hours on videos that literally get 0 views, it's not a waste, it is a massive, massive investment. You are stacking up incredibly valuable, compounding skills. We're talking video editing, storytelling, marketing, SEO, and audience psychology. These are huge, highly marketable skills that apply to the real world and real businesses. Whether your channel goes viral or not, you are basically building the foundation for absolute independence from the traditional 9 to 5.
The fact is, the only guaranteed way to fail is to never press record simply because you're terrified of a binary metric that doesn't actually measure your worth. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought straight from the Terranate agency. Are you going to keep pouring your energy into a fragile system that relies on fleeting metrics and server cockpits? Or are you ready to stop staring at the screen, establish your own equilibrium, and start investing in the solid ground beneath your feet? The choice is completely yours. Activate your agency.